Welcome to the Birth Lounge podcast, an empowering space for expecting and new parents to hear candid conversations with experts, support your mental health, and learn the tips and tricks that thousands of parents have used to craft their ideal birth. We will answer all of your questions, the scary ones and the weird ones, to help calm your fears and feel confident going into your birth. I'm going to help you redefine what birth and motherhood looks like and how to embrace your journey. I've intentionally crafted a list of experts to help you navigate pregnancy, explore your birth options, and plan for postpartum so that it can be a time of soaking in your tiny human. We're going to go there on all the hard topics so that you can dive deep into finding your confidence and freeing yourself from fears around birth. With over 10 years of experience in family education and a master's degree in human development and family studies, I created this podcast as a way to share the resources parents need to make educated and informed decisions about their care in pregnancy and childbirth. This is a birth community driven by evidence-based information and research in hopes to help you explore your options, understand your rights, and know what choices you have along the way when it comes to birth and beyond. I'm your host, HeHe. Now let's get to the good stuff. Liz, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited to have you here. And I've already told our listeners what we're talking about. They know we're talking about baby sleep. They know we're talking about the importance of giving your baby the right environment to sleep in. But what they may not know is how much I love from the beginning of time. And I have a master's degree in human development family studies. So I'm very well familiar with the human development process, with infant development, with newborn sleep in a biological way, a baby-led way. And so swaddling has always been part of my practice, part of the recommendations that we share with parents. Through the years, I have loved swaddles, hated swaddles, recommended swaddles. As they've changed their products, I've rescinded my recommendation and changed. You were one of those pivotal places where when I saw your swaddle, I was like, oh my God, what is this? And the more that I've learned about your product, the more I'm blown away. So I think that actually may be a good place for us to start this conversation. I know that we'll get to all of the good stuff and we've got data for you guys. Don't worry. We're going to give you the juicy details on the safety of swaddles and everything that you want to know about baby sleep. But before we do that, Liz, how did you come up with the Swaddelini?
The Swaddelini was born, I think you've heard that phrase that necessity is the mother of invention. And I think this is a perfect example of that. I was a new mom. I was also a new entrepreneur. I had a knitting business where I was knitting things like shoe uppers and office furniture, seat covers. And I had this new baby who was just always waking up, and he did not like swaddles. He'd break out and then there'd be fabric about the face. I was so worried and anxious. I was going through, I didn't know this then, I know it now, but I was going through some postpartum emotional distress, and I was always attentive to him, but took a lot. He was waking up a lot, and I thought he obviously doesn't like swaddling because he feels constricted. He can't move his arms. And I thought, if I could make a product that could hug him and help him feel safe and secure, but also allowed him to move around and experience that Moro reflex and active sleep, which we now know is crucial for brain development, I think he'd like it. And so I went to the technology I had at my fingertips, which were my 3D knitting machines, and I prototyped something. And I remember putting my firstborn, my Thomas, in his first Swaddelini prototype, and I put him to sleep. He was about 2.5 months old. And then my husband and I went to bed, and we woke up in the morning in a panic, mind you. This was the first time this had happened. So we ran to the crib, and there he is sleeping peacefully. And my husband grabbed my arm and said, "Liz, you're going to sell 1 million of these." And in that moment, I knew, oh my God, what have I done? This is going to be a lot of work. And it certainly was. And I was a textile engineer. So I spent a year refining the design, making it better, testing it at third-party laboratories. And so I launched it almost on his 1 year birthday. And it took 3 years after that for it to really take off. And it took off on TikTok in an amazing way. It was a video that I had taken of his younger brother, me putting the Swaddelini on. And there was nothing special about that video, but it got 1 million views within 24 hours. And I had 341 sales and only one machine in my garage. And a full-time W-2 job, mind you. So that one video, that one TikTok changed the trajectory of my life. And now I have a 6,000 square foot facility and 15 people who help me make the swaddles. And we have not sold out to China. We make everything right here in Michigan.
Every time I hear your story, I get so jazzed up and just like beaming with happiness and pride for you. And look how cute your little rosy cheeks are. I can see that you're so proud of yourself too. And
Yeah.
you should be. Like, this is so cool. You're truly living the American dream. You
Yeah.
had a problem, you thought of a solution. You worked really hard and didn't let any roadblocks stop you, even though you've had lots of roadblocks. You've
Oh
had
yeah.
lots of things that have tried to stop you from bringing this product to thousands and thousands of homes. I'm 0% shocked that your product took off. I'm telling you guys, the minute I saw Liz's product, the minute I saw the Swaddelini, I thought, oh my God, this is the game changer. This is what we've been waiting for.
Mm.
So, can you talk to us a little bit about that postpartum emotional
Oh yeah.
distress? I know that's not what our podcast episode is about, but I
Well,
think
it can
that,
be because it's hard. It's hard to
yeah,
think. It's hard
yeah.
to think when you're in that postpartum haze.
Mhm.
I always say Swaddelini is not a caregiver brand. We're the creator. We're giving you the
Yeah.
tools. And I feel like the Swaddelini is a tool to help women who are in that postpartum haze, whether it's just a normal haze or if they've got something a little more. So for me, I didn't know I had postpartum emotional distress because I only knew about the postpartum depression where you have horrible thoughts about harming yourself or others. I didn't have that. I just had a heightened sense of anxiety, and it makes sense given my personality type, but I didn't know what was going on until 6 months later. I freaked out at my son's daycare, and they said that because of my behavior, they were going to pull my son out of daycare. And I mentioned this to my OB, and she was like, I think this is interfering with your life. And so I went on 50 milligrams of Zoloft. And to this day, I tell my friends, hey, 50 milligrams of Zoloft never hurt anybody.
Mm.
And I've had other friends who have been like, okay, Liz did it, I'll do it. And it's helped them too. So I wasn't on it for more than 8 months or so, but it was exactly what I needed. It was exactly what I needed. And then my next time, I didn't need any medical assistance because I knew the words for it. And so going into my second journey through motherhood, I was so much more prepared because I had the language to describe what was going on. And just knowing that helped me. So it helped me set and enforce boundaries better. It helped me give myself grace, and it even helped me prepare better just in a very practical way for my postpartum experience. But I think with each postpartum, I've had 4 now, I get a little more prepared. I introduce a few more resources, and I really tried with my 4th postpartum to have I've been chasing this perfect postpartum experience, and I did discover that unfortunately there's no such thing
Yep.
as perfect postpartum. And yeah, you should still prepare. You should still do all the things, get the help. But unfortunately, you're never going to feel totally yourself. You're never going to feel completely like you've got it all under control. You're not going to feel that way.
Yeah. I don't know that postpartum was designed to be perfect. I think there's so many lessons in there for us that messiness, that broken downness and rebuilding is all part of the process, even as hard
Mhm.
as it is part of it for us. Also, thank you for normalizing that postpartum experience. I think that's a really common experience that so many people have, but not everybody talks about it. And there's a lot of big feelings, shame, guilt, embarrassment attached to those. So it really keeps us from talking about it. And we also know that in some cases, the healthcare system can be very punitive in situations like that. Not everybody is safe to tell their OBGYN about their experience like that. I've had discussions on social media where people said, I did tell my provider and I had social services called on me and I was asking for help. I was asking for support. I was sharing that something wasn't right. And I
Wow.
had CPS called on me. I had a case opened up against me, things like that. And so I do want to hold space for people who maybe are not safe to share that with your OBGYN, but if you are, please do, because it may be common, but it doesn't have to stay that way. One of the things that we know that exacerbates postpartum emotional distress, postpartum depression, the anxiety, all of that overwhelm that comes is that lack of sleep. So when you were making your swaddle, what were the things that in your mind you were like, it has to be different? I want to do it different. For me, one of the things that struck me just I was blown away by the design of it is the compression part.
Oh, wow.
There's no sleeves, there's no zippers, there's no flaps that you velcro together or wrap around. It's like a compression sock.
Yeah. Oh, I love that you said that. Yes, because a lot of people have been asking for an adult version,
Yeah,
and the adult,
same.
yeah, it's coming. I'll send you one, HeHe. It's
I
coming in
love
the
it.
next few months. It will be called a body compression sock. So we just got the trademark for
Ooh.
that. But yeah, well, what made it different? How did I do it? It was very serendipitous that I had this idea for my son. At the same time, I had just finished up a project making compression garments for children with lymphedema. And so I had all of this compression yarn that is made in North Carolina, by the way. It's the last part of our US textile industry. So I love that part about it. But I knew that this was good yarn. It's the same type of compression yarn used in medical grade compression garments, but it has like a really good stretch and recovery rate. So I knew I could get a light compression feel out of it if I combined it with some softer, less stretchy yarns. So I knew I could use that. And so that was exactly what I used. I had the perfect raw material at my fingertips and the perfect process. So the process I used is with flatbed weft knitting machines. And I learned a specific type of programming where I can use this technology to yield soft goods in one piece. So I call it SOGAM, soft good additive manufacturing, because when the Swaddelini comes out of the machine, it's done. There's no cutting, no sewing, no waste. So that means there's no seams to break the compression value, and there's no wasted raw material, which is also very good and sustainable.
I
Uh,
love that. Go green, man. That's the best. I think a lot of people are just now waking up to the idea of looking into the business that we're buying for and making sure that if it's a woman-owned business, that they're really treating women on their team properly. That if they say that they're a sustainable company, that they're truly making decisions in their business that are good for our earth, or at least doing as minimal harm as possible. And I really
well,
appreciate you being that company and that
can I
transparency.
can I share a story about one of my employees? She's since left to be a stay-at-home mom, which I totally support, but she came to work for me 8 weeks after having a baby because she didn't want to go back to her factory job and put her
Mm,
baby in daycare. And I had met her through friends and I said, hey, and she was 19. I said, I'm manufacturing the Swaddelini in my garage right now. Come and work, bring your baby to work in my living room. We'll make it work. So for about 8 months, she brought her baby to my house and helped me make Swaddelini, and she helped respond to customer emails. And then it reached a point where her baby was crawling around. She said, it's not going to work for me anymore, Liz. And I said, okay, would you be willing to work part-time from home, customer service? And she said, yes. And
amazing.
so and then that worked until that job grew bigger than what she wanted to do because she wanted to have more kids and stuff. And I was like, okay, I'll figure it out. And yeah, we're still in touch today, and she's mom of two now. But I love that she was able to buy a house during her time with me because she had that job. And so I really feel like that was such a great first employee to have because it really taught me where my values lie. And yeah, and now that I'm starting to hire more people, I know I'm going to have the opportunity to give good maternity leave at some point because like I only ever had of my four kids, I only ever got really one maternity leave. I tried to do one recently. It was really only 4 weeks. So I'm excited that the best one I ever had was 12, but it was during COVID and I got an extra 4. I think 16 weeks is the perfect amount of time. That's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, how desperately I wish that things were different in the US when it comes to
Yeah.
postpartum. Okay, I want to talk about that sensory pressure that you incorporate into your swaddle. Sensory pressure is important. We know that babies like it. That compression is good. So tell us about your swaddle and why that
Mhm.
compression works. Why does it make your baby sleep through the night,
Okay.
basically?
Yeah, yeah. So I don't guarantee that babies sleep through the night. I remember gifting this to one friend and she was like, "Oh, he slept like 3 to 4 hours." And I was like, "Oh no, it didn't
Perfect.
work." And I
Oh, no, it worked.
maybe 2 hours, maybe it was 2 hours. I was like, "Oh no, it didn't work." And she's, "Oh, he usually sleeps in 20-minute increments." This is
Definitely.
amazing. And I was like, "Okay." So I never guarantee that it will help your baby sleep through the night. And that may not be the goal depending on the
Totally.
developmental stage of your baby.
You
But
guys see why I had Liz on? She just gets it. You
yeah,
understand, Liz. You just get
yeah.
it. Okay, sorry.
Because I've had 4 kids and I'm like,
Yeah.
and I also don't want to say anything that's not true.
Yeah,
And
nobody can guarantee that your baby sleeps through the night, but there are things that we can help you understand why your baby needs these things and why it will improve their sleep. And you are giving them a tool that will help do that for them to help support that development in their baby. I tell them about the tool. So I appreciate your approach of this is not necessarily to get your baby to sleep through the night. It's to help give your baby the support that they need to be able to sleep on their own in
yeah,
increments that's appropriate for them.
yeah, yeah. And as far as the compression, I'm trying to steer away from that word because when people hear compression, they think, "Oh my gosh, my baby won't be able to move," and they think of restriction and they
Oh,
think of weight.
yeah.
That's because that's not what I'm talking about. I've trademarked my that the stitch construction at the chest and arms as hug technology. So
Oh, I
it's
love that.
lightweight compression. And when I say lightweight, I've actually had it measured at the Hohenstein Institute in Germany. And so compression is measured in millimeters of mercury. And the Swaddelini, depending on the size of your baby, is between 1 and 5 millimeters of mercury of compression. If you were to get the lightest weight compression socks on the market for like airplane travel, it's between 8 and 15. So this is on the scale, but just barely. So it can't be lighter. That said, the reason it's soothing is simply because imagine the baby's in your womb, they're surrounded by amniotic fluid. So they're getting a constant sense of a hug. So that's basically what the Swaddelini is achieving, is that sense of a hug, that gentle sense of a hug. But also when babies are in your belly surrounded by the amniotic fluid, they're not restricted in movement. And they're famous and notorious for kicking and hitting and punching their moms while they're in the womb. And so I think the swaddle that you choose shouldn't be any different. It should achieve a gentle sense of a hug and still allow babies to move. And of course, in recent studies, we've shown that actually the movement related to the Moro reflex, that sense of falling, is very important neurologically because those reflexes make up the cognitive coordination and behavioral skills that set your baby off on good development.
Yeah. You guys, your baby needs sleep. They need that sleep to be able to put their brain to rest and ease so that their body can actually concrete in the skills that they're picking up during their hours of wake. And so that's why your baby takes, it's not the only reason, but it is partly the reason why your baby takes multiple naps. They will have 60 minutes, 75, 90 minutes, 2 hours of awake time, picking up skills. Everything they come in contact with right after birth is new, right? As they get older, obviously, they get desensitized like us. But in those first few weeks and months, they'll be awake for a period of time, gathering everything in their environment, everything that's happening to them, and then they go to sleep and their body kind of digests that. And then they wake up and they're ready to take on more. So just think about that. The goal of your baby's sleep is not just to have their eyes closed and them like sleeping. We want them to truly be in a deep restorative state of sleep. Okay, so Liz, you before I say that, I want to tell you how I think about your swaddle to put people's minds at rest about like how tight it is. And I've seen this on baby dolls. I've played with the Swaddelini. I saw it on Liz's actual real life living baby. So I've seen it in action and on baby dolls modeled out. I think about it more like the bodycon dresses that we wear. You
Oh,
guys know how it is, it's there, it's snug, but it's not like squeezing your guts out. You don't feel uncomfortable. You feel supported. You feel like you're being hugged. It's that hug technology. I love that, Liz. One of the things you mentioned was hip development, the
yeah.
moral reflex, being able to move and wiggle. Why do you want your baby to do that? Tell our listeners why that's important. Why was that a priority for you?
Yeah, my product works great on a baby that doesn't need any medical device on it while during sleep time, but not so great if a medical device is needed. And I learned this the first day I launched my product in,
Wow.
in August. It was August 24th, 2018 in Chicago at a baby show. And I had a baby come by my booth who had Treacher-Collins syndrome, which is missing bones in the face. And the mom saw my product and she just lit up. She was like, oh my gosh, this could be the solution. Because every time she'd have to feed her baby with a feeding tube, she'd have to bind her arms down with this like medical band, and she hated it. She'd cry. So and the purpose of this medical band or brace is to keep her hands from getting the wires out of the way so she can be fed. And so she put her on the Swaddelini and she found she could still move, but she wasn't able to like take her hand and move the wires out of the way. And she bought 3. And that was the first moment where I realized I have an adaptable product that can work for a variety of babies. And so I just started to pay attention and listen more. And anytime I received a request from a mom, hey, would this work for my baby with a hip dysplasia brace? Would this work for my clubfoot baby? Would this work for my G-tube baby? And I just said, yeah, let me just make some tweaks. And so from day one, I have been making custom Swaddelini by request. And we've narrowed it down to a few different, I'm still doing it. But for instance, if you have a baby with a brace, like hip dysplasia brace or clubfoot brace, or with that needs a G-tube access or any kind of access opening, maybe for telemetry, you can go to the healthcare page of our website and find it there. And if you need any other adjustments, you can let us know. And then I also had a custom baby Swaddelini order from a baby who had a variety of health issues. And because of her health issues, she needed an extra large because she wasn't rolling over yet, even though she was like 9 months, 10 months old. And I usually don't make Swaddelini that big because, of course, you're not supposed to put a baby in it who is rolling. And so this baby was baby Wren. And she was just such a pleasure to work with. I worked with her grandmother, and they shared with me some content of them changing out all of her tubes and stuff while she's wearing the Swaddelini, and she was just calm and serene instead of biting some medical brace. So that really means a lot, and it means a lot to my team, because when we create a custom Swaddelini with the access point, with the brace, or even a custom size like for baby Wren, it involves every single member of my team. It involves my gal who works in customer service, who gets the request or in fulfillment, and then she brings it to the knit engineer over there, Bridget, who then brings it to our knit technicians in production, who then bring it to our quality team so that they can keep it separate from everything else, and then back into fulfillment and out the door. So every single person is involved in keeping all the custom orders separate, and so that they get to the place that they need to go. And it's a lot more work, and absolutely everyone here is willing to do the extra work and go the extra mile.
I love that so much.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness. Okay, tell us how your swaddle actually works. And for people who are following on YouTube and social media, do you have a model that you could use?
Yeah,
Huh.
okay. So how it works is you scrunch it up like a sock, and then you put it on feet first, and you shimmy it over the baby's butt. You get this hug technology over the chest. And then here's what's fun. There's an easy access diaper flap. So you can change the diaper.
Nighttime
Right?
changes.
Yes.
Nice.
And that's also how you get the arms through the side tube. So the trick is when you put your hand up through it, you have to get your whole hand through that side tube. You put their little hand in yours, and then you pull it through, and you just repeat that on the other side. And that's how you get your baby into the Swaddelini. So it takes me 30 seconds or less, but it probably would take someone who's never done it like a minute. But then it takes the guesswork out of how tight it is, because it's easy to wrap your baby too tight in like a Velcro one or something like that. And so it just, yeah, it takes the guesswork out of it. As long as your baby can bend their hand to the midline, it's fine. If they can't bend so much, unless you're putting it on a newborn, they don't have the strength yet to bend their arms like that, but that they'll be small enough to fit into it. So this is for babies 6 to 12 pounds. Once you get close to that 12-pound range, if you have a tall, skinny baby, they might be able to wear this till they're 14 pounds. But if you have a short, chunky baby, like if you've got a 10-pound and they're just chunker, you might have to size up. But I think 12 pounds, it's pretty true to size. And then I do have a large one for the super chunky babies, but honestly, I don't recommend that one because most likely by the time your baby's like 12, 13, 14 pounds, they're going to be rolling, or at least for me, that was true. Every baby's different though. But if you're wondering what size to get, I highly recommend the small. Highly recommend the small. And I always tell people, if you had a 12-pound baby and it doesn't work, you get one for free. You should show me the birth certificate of your 12-pound baby, and that should not happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should not happen.
What
Uh,
about temperature control? I know that when we talk about
oh,
swaddles, a lot of parents are really concerned about overheating. Do you put your baby naked in this for sleeping? Are there any rules about we should set our thermostats at home a little bit lower since they're in a swaddle like this? What do you recommend in terms of use with the Swaddelini?
okay. So I will answer that, but I just want to preface it with, you know your baby best and you know your sleep environment best. Humidity levels play into it too. Definitely just trust your gut when it comes to this. But with the Swaddelini, you can put your baby in it with just a diaper or with a sleeper or like short sleeve pant combo. I've done it all different ways. I once took my baby to my sister's and it was really cold. It was like 68 where I was sleeping, and I put 2 fleece onesies under the Swaddelini, but I never layer over. That's my rule. Do not layer over, because then I cannot guarantee the safety of that. Okay. So that's one thing I want to impress. That said, I thought my product was 0.7 TOG because that was the test I had done at some local lab. But then the test started coming back wacky. And I'm like, this is not consistent. So I bit the bullet and I got everything tested at the best textile lab in the world, which is the Hohenstein Institute in Germany. And it came back, our air light is only 0.21 TOG.
Wow.
Yeah. And our other swaddles are between 0.23, and the bamboo is the heaviest one at 0.34. So they're all under 0.5 TOG.
Yeah. And these are not weighted sleep sacks. It's very
Oh,
different.
very different. And that's what, like, they are very soft and stretchy,
Stretchy.
very lightweight. So one of the complaints I get is, oh, I can't believe this is $40. Like, it feels like nothing, like air. And I'm like, that's actually, we're really
Intentional.
proud of that. Like, we're
That's
really proud of that.
purposeful.
Yeah, that's purposeful. Yeah. So like my lightest one that's only 0.2 TOG is called Air Light, and it's supposed to be super feather light. And it truly is. And honestly, it's one of our best sellers right now. People love that about it. And I love it too, because one thing people sometimes forget when it comes to dressing your baby for sleep is the TOG of the pajamas. Right. So you could have a 1.0 sleep sack, but if the pajamas are also 1.0, now you're at 2.0 overall TOG. Or you could have a 1.0 TOG swaddle blanket, but then you're wrapping that over your baby so many times, you rack it up. You're like at 0.3, depending on how many times you wrap it. Yeah, it depends on the fabric and everything. But that's one of my selling points that I love about my product, is that it's just one layer. It's one layer. And it's snug enough. You can look over and you can watch their little chest move up and down, because it's just like some of my customers call it a second skin for their baby. Yeah. So some of my customers call it a second skin for their baby.
Yeah, I love that. So how do you wash or clean it, Liz? Does it just go in the washer and then can you stick it in the dryer? Do you hang to dry? What's that look like?
All right. So on the tag, it does say wash on cold and air dry, and that is for longevity purposes.
Sure.
We hit it with about 40 minutes of heat in the dryer. And then, during development, we do wash and dry to see what the true relaxed state is. But the reason we don't wash it before we send it to customers is just that's a lot of water, and we know you're going to be washing it too. Yeah, we don't wash it before we send it to you, but we do pre-shrink it. So we recommend if it's a little too big, maybe the fibers didn't relax all the way, put it through a heat cycle. If you feel like it relaxed too much, I recommend doing this every time you put it on your baby, but just stretch it out vertically and horizontally before you don it, because then it just makes donning a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, donning just means putting it on, guys, just like
Yeah.
getting dressed. Okay, and when should you stop using the Swaddelini? Is it like every other swaddle when your baby starts to show signs of rolling?
Yes, yes. So I I know says sometimes people say, oh, 8 weeks, and maybe that's a good rule. My baby was definitely in this longer than 8 weeks, but
Totally.
that was, I know for a fact, like, unless my baby has rolled over already, they're not going to roll over in this
Yeah,
for the first time. But if you put a baby who is not sleeping in this and they're over 8 weeks, there's a chance they'll roll over. So just keep that in mind. This is a product only for sleep time. And if your baby wakes up in this and they're put over 8 weeks, close to rolling, it is possible they could probably roll over because they can still move. And it
sure.
might be difficult for them to move back. Yeah. And so because of that, we have come out with an arms out version, which has,
Wow.
yeah. So that's
So it's
fine.
just the torso and the legs. It's just the trunk of the body and the legs.
Yes, so it still has that hug technology at the chest and arms, and yeah, it
So there are sleeves over the arms. It's just separate from the body. They're not
yep,
connected.
it's like any sleep sack. It just has more of a hug sensation to it because I'm using that elastic yarn.
Yeah. If someone wanted to start with that one, could you put your newborn in that, or do you recommend the
Got a
one with the
small one.
arms? Yeah.
The small one that is 12 to 18 pounds, I think you could use on a larger newborn. It
Mm-hmm.
would like be big. It would be
Yeah.
big, but if it's still possible, it's just, and I was thinking of making an even smaller one, but it would be too hard to get your own hand through the tubes of
Yeah.
something that small. So
You mentioned even smaller. What about preemie babies? Can preemie
mm.
babies use your swaddles?
The Swaddelini, yes, we
Nice.
have a preemie Swaddelini, and that you can
Nice.
still get your hands through. We make it in the same way we make our Airlight product, just smaller.
Yeah. And is that something parents can take to the NICU if they have a
Yeah.
preference for your Swadolini to be used in the hospital versus not having anything or having what the hospital provides?
Yes, and I can't guarantee that the nurses will already know how to use it, so you might have to
Sure.
share videos with them. But we have donated these type of swaddles to like over 50 different hospitals in North America.
Wow. Oh my God. That's awesome. Okay. Nice. Liz, I love your product. I'm totally sold. I hopefully get to be included in your launch of the adult product because this is what I'm missing. One of the things that I hate about weighted blankets is that they make me sweat. They're just so hot, and I can't find one that is heavy enough that gives me the sensory input I need to truly relax, but doesn't make me overheat at night. And so I think the Swadolini is going to be the
HeHe, I'm
answer.
so glad you brought the whole sensory thing up because I have started working with a local somatic movement therapist, and she
Yeah.
also has weighted blankets. Like she
Mm,
has one because she does like the sensory input for her
totally.
patients. But I've been making her some custom stuff because she works with bonding, especially with moms with adoptive babies who were never in their bellies. So you typically would wrap them in Lycra, but now we're basically making like a Swadolini band,
Oh
bonding
my
band for them.
gosh.
So I don't know if this will go on the market for consumers or if I'll just sell to somatic movement therapists, but I'm having a lot of fun making as a team, we're making this for her and just seeing what more we can do with the technology that we have here.
I would love to see a hug technology baby wearer come on the market. That would be super awesome to just have something snug I could slide my baby down in and it's right there. Oh, I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, Liz, this is one of the coolest products I've ever seen. I'm so excited that your product is taken off. I'm so excited to see all the homes that you guys are in and you guys are truly like changing lives. I know you hear the stories when I scroll your social media content, your comments on your social media. I see the stories and the lives that you're changing. So thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. If someone wanted to get a hold of you, or they were interested in purchasing a Swaddelini,
Yeah.
or they already use a Swaddelini and didn't know how to contact you and they want to share how you changed their life, how can someone connect with you? Where do they find you?
Okay, so the few different ways. Obviously, you can always comment on a video on social media. I read a lot, almost every comment. So I'm the one checking all the comments on social media. And then the lovely Shauna is responding to everything at support@swaddelini.com. When you write to support@swaddelini.com and it's a positive story like that, Shauna copies it and pastes it and sends it to everybody in the team because we love hearing stories. And
Love
we have this thing called Feedback Fridays, and we love hearing stories like that and having pictures. We have actually a whole wall of pictures of babies in the Swaddelini because we are manufacturers of the product, and it's not very glamorous and it's hard, monotonous work. So it's great for our team to be reminded that, oh yeah, we're making baby swaddles. This is really important. We always appreciate those stories. And then, of course, if you want to buy one, it's swaddellini.com, Swaddellini. And if you need a custom swaddle, and you can go to the healthcare tab on our website, and we have preemie, we have the baby with brace, and we have the access opening. If there's something else that you need, please reach out to support@swaddellini.com and give us your suggestion, and we'll see if we can help you out.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Liz, is there anything else you want to leave our community with that I didn't get to ask?
Oh my gosh. We covered so much. I guess I want to leave it with just something I say anytime someone says, oh, I'm having my baby soon. I just want to wish all of you an empowering birth experience. And yeah, that's it.
I think that's perfect. No, it's just so clear why I had you on the podcast and how much we jive, and just you are my people, Liz. I love that so much. All right, you guys, I will see you in the next episode. Be sure to follow Liz on social media, and you can find me at Tranquility by HeHe or at the.birth.lounge. Until next time, head to your app store and download the Birth Lounge app for more evidence-based childbirth education and data-driven postpartum support delivered straight to your phone. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I truly do value this community, and I love hanging out with you. You deserve to have a birth that you love with a provider that values your autonomy and respects informed consent. It's an honor to be your go-to gal when it comes to preparing for your baby. If you found today's episode helpful, share it with a friend. Share it with someone who could use evidence-based information to help them have an informed and confident birth. I'd love to hear what you have to say and read your sweet words. By leaving us a review, you are helping other expectant mamas and their families find the podcast so that we can reduce birth trauma and improve maternity care in the U.S. one birth at a time. If you're interested in joining the Birth Lounge, go to thebirthlounge.com. If you want to connect with me on socials, you can find me at Tranquility by HeHe on all platforms. Until next time, stay educated, stay supported, stay confident. Bye.